Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
We are celebrating DCE Day just a little bit early. It's coming up on June 26th, and we have some great DCEs with us today. Dr. Thad Warren, he's professor and chair of human and social science at Concordia University, Nebraska. Dr. Warren, thanks so much for being our guest today.
You're welcome.
And joining us from Southern California, Shelli Haynes. She's a DCE there in Southern California. Shelli, thanks so much for being our guest.
Thank you.
And moving over to the other side of the states, Emily Phoenix, a DCE in Baltimore. Emily, thanks so much for being our guest.
Hello, thanks for having us.
All right, so we get to ask the fun question. We've had the chance to talk with Dr. Bill Karpenka about the history of DCEs, but what's the current or the present definition of DCE? Who wants to attack that one and run with it? Thad, you want to define that for us?
I think Emily wants to.
Emily, okay. Emily's all over it.
Christian educator from cradle to grave is how I remember learning it at Concordia, Nebraska. Primarily in congregational settings, but I've obviously had the experience and seen many DCEs working in other settings in recent years. So that's been pretty cool.
Some of them serve at your synodical radio station.
Yes, they do.
Yes, love that.
That's you.
Oh, that's me. So,
if you want the professional definition, I do have it.
Okay, bring it on, Thad.
The definition is a director of Christian education is a synodically certified, called, and commissioned lifespan educational leader prepared for team ministry in a congregational setting. Pretty close, Emily.
Yeah, I know.
Nice
I was a little off.
So what does that look like? In what ways do DCEs serve today? And where do they serve? Let's go to Shelli.
I think DCEs serve in many different capacities. Obviously, within the congregation, they might be youth people, but they might be family ministry people. They might be working in a school and church setting. We see DCEs on staff in high schools or colleges that are continuing to equip and use Christian education. And even in the actual community setting, we have some awesome DCEs that are serving as liaisons with different support areas throughout the community and providing Christian education where they can. And it's super exciting.
So, Thad, can you describe the process of what actually goes into DCE formation?
Primarily, a DCE will be trained at one of the Concordias. We do have a few DCEs that will be trained, will get an undergraduate degree somewhere else and then come to one of the Concordias for their colloquy, which is a series of classes, both in theology and in Christian education. But a typical DCE will do their undergraduate degree at one of the synodical schools that prepares DCEs. And in that program, it really is each university has somewhat of a unique program, but they all follow some similar guidelines in preparing students. They receive training in theology, in education, in psychology, and then sometimes in other areas as well. Sometimes they may receive training in music or those kinds of things. And then they at the end of their 4 years will go on a full year internship, which is in a parish or a setting that is connected with the parish, in which they do a full 12 months internship on site with direct supervision from those on site as well as supervision from the universities. And at the completion of that, then they receive their DC certification.
So, Emily, what stands out about your DCE education and formation? What do you remember about that really stands out that was really helpful to you?
Yeah. My education, it's been about 13 years since I graduated from Concordia, Nebraska, and it was really focused on relationships. Ministry is all about relationships, and we're able to be more effective as Christian educators in relationship with others and in relationship with Jesus. And my training did a great job of focusing on that, and then also focusing on being a team player. DCEs are second chair leaders in a congregational setting with a pastor as the first chair, which is a unique position to be in. And I know that in my continuing ed beyond Concordia, learned a lot about what it means to be a second chair leader, to support the vision of the first chair, but also have areas of influence in the discipleship process and educating all of the different age groups.
Shelli, how about you? How about your DCE education and formation?
Yeah, I would agree with Emily. I went to Concordia Irvine, but I am much older. I probably 25, 26 years ago. And I think the relationship aspect was definitely a huge one for me as well. But I will say one of the classes that has been the most useful in practical ministry application was my group dynamics class. Being able to apply biblical knowledge or teaching methods or psychology, but working within a group and sort of understanding how students especially and their parents come and what they're bringing with them and what to look for. And I would say even adding on to what the modern DCE does now, a lot of it were aimed at discipling families and helping to equip parents and families on to live a discipled life outside of what they do on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night or whatever the time that they gather with their community of faith is. And so understanding group dynamics was pretty seminal for me. And I think the class probably that gave me the most bang for the buck overall.
So Shelli, what does your service as a DCE look like now? Is it different than when you started?
Yeah, when I started, I was high school specific. I really kind of thought that kids came to me just birthed in ninth grade, and I had these awesome 4 years with them, and then I never saw them again type of thing. I actually am moving from California to Tennessee, but I'm staying with my church. I'm going to work remotely. My job now is as a team lead with a couple of other ministers underneath me that are one DCE, Phil Gaylor. He's older than I am. They're doing sort of the hands-on work. And then I'm writing curriculum or modifying curriculum or casting vision, working with parents, teaching online classes, those types of things. And it's a lot different. I was recently at my house. I invited every former student I ever had in the past 24 years. And the backyard was just filled with all kinds of memories. But they all had different things to say about me as DCE because of the evolution of Shelli the person in that role. So it was super cool and quite a gift to be able to just kind of sit and rejoice and see all those wonderful faces.
Emily, what about you? How has your DCE service looked over the years?
Yeah, so for me, it's always been unique because I've never served in a call where I was primarily focused on youth ministry. A lot of young DCEs start out in youth ministry and then transition into different areas. And so it's been unique for me because I've always focused on education for children and for adults, and then I kind of served in a supporting role to a volunteer or a part-time person who served in youth ministry, and that was both of my calls. And so I feel like early on in ministry I got exposure to areas that normally a young DC would not be exposed to, and then currently I'm not in a congregation, but I am serving with the NADCE board, with Kendall, and with some other organizations. And God is still using my skills, even though I'm not, directly in a congregational setting.
Thad, how can we learn more about becoming a DCE?
That's a great question. Most any church worker, pastor, or DCE, folks that are commissioned in the church can have connections or will be able to provide connections with any one of the synodical schools that train DCEs, as well as any district office would be able to help a person understand more about what a DCE is. Probably the easiest, though, is to just go directly to one of the universities that have DC programs.
So you can check out the DCE programs at any of these Concordia universities: Irvine in California, Chicago, Concordia University, Texas, Nebraska, or St. Paul in Minnesota. And it's been a lot of fun talking with all of you today. And I hope that you have some fun plans to celebrate DCE Day coming up on this Saturday, the 26th.
I'll be on a retreat. Woohoo!
I'll be on vacation. Yeah, it'll be great.
Oh, I like it.
Winding down VBS and gearing up for DCE Day. Our guest today, Dr. Thad Warren, Professor and Chair of Human and Social Science at Concordia University, Nebraska. Dr. Warren, thanks so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Shelli Haynes, DCE in Southern California. Shelli, great to have you back on the Coffee Hour. Thanks for being our guest.
Oh, thank you so much. Great to be with you.
Emily Phoenix, DCE in Baltimore, Maryland. Emily, thanks so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@kfuo.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.